Bonjour YouTube. It's Lux Lafem. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment on my videos. And Madames and Messieurs, please don't forget to click the notification bell. In my pursuit of self-awareness and healing from narcissistic abuse, narcissistic trauma, I have come to another understanding about myself. Because of the abuse I suffered as a child, it's left me vulnerable to narcissistic trauma bonds, which would explain why I was involved with so many narcissists. My first long-term relationship was with a narcissist. The second one was my first husband. He's a narcissist. The third one was with a person that we were together off and on for about, 3 or 4 years. He was a narcissist. The last one, the longest relationship I've ever had to date, was with a narcissist, which of course I've shared, ended with the man putting a bat to my head because we disagreed about how much money I save on gas by not going into the office. He lied to the police. He had his daughter lie, and then a woman showed up at my house 3 weeks later to say that they had been having sex in my house for 2 years straight. She knew the name of the kids, had his number, and of course had the address. So I had to ask myself, okay, so I understand all the things that he's done, but what happened to me that allowed this kind of abuse, that I would endure this kind of abuse? What's going on mentally with me? So, my area of opportunity, lesson number 1, is that my pathological need to be loved created a distorted view of my value and worth. So I found this article online about pathological love. Now I'm going to warn you that this is it's a great article up until, in my opinion, it gets to the part where and this is it is an article on a website for a treatment facility. So of course they're at the end, they have their spiel. Hey, this is what we can offer you. But up until that point, the article is bomb. It straight gets to the point. So the place is called Healing Springs Ranch, and you go out and visit there. It's healingspringsranch.com. I don't know these folks. They definitely aren't sponsoring me, but this article is right on the point. It's right on point. So anyway, I wanted to share. So the byline reads, love addiction, sometimes called pathological love. Is there such a thing? Love addiction is sometimes called pathological love. When healthy feelings of attachment and affection become obsessive and uncontrollable, they become pathological. How does this happen? Why are some people driven to an insatiable need for love? Although currently undefined, there is a consensus that love addiction is a behavioral addiction. It is described as a mood, impulse control, or obsessive-compulsive behavior. It can appear as reward-seeking impulsivity combined with attachment behaviors. It can manifest in obsessive-dependent love or an impulse sexual drive with multiple partners. Different factors result in different combinations of excessive and out-of-control behaviors. Unlike physical addiction, love addiction is not based on the desire for consumption of any chemical substance. The feelings of love trigger the release of serotonin and dopamine, which feeds the addictive cravings of pleasure, satisfaction, and euphoria. Love addiction becomes a problem when behaviors increasingly infringe on other responsibilities and obligations. A love addict feels the compulsive desire to pursue love because of the intensified feelings associated with it. This love addiction cycle includes a compulsive need for attachment, approval, and belonging. The cycle repeats itself when the love addict feels abandoned or rejected. Why a love addiction? It is believed that love addiction stems from unhealthy childhood attachments. A child's need for love, acceptance, self-esteem, and belonging are formed and solidified in childhood. Any maladaptive attachment behaviors learned in childhood often repeat throughout a lifetime without awareness and treatment. Childhood attachment trauma can occur in many ways. Parents expecting autonomy from their child at a young age. And how I see that is parents expecting a child to be able to make adult decisions, and a kid is a kid. Or they need to be able to function on their own. It reminds me of when I used to have to walk to school when I was 7. And school was about 7 or 8 blocks away. And I walked to school by myself. At first, she had an older girl walking us to school, but then the older girl stopped going to the school. And so it was just me, and then it was me and my brother. But I was put in charge of me and my brother at 7, walking to school. So from 7, from the age of 7, I was walking to school and walking home by myself or with my brother. When I was about 9 or 10, I was then given the responsibility of taking my sister to school. I take that back. It was picking her up after school. So after I got off of school, was I 9? Maybe I was 12. But I had the responsibility, an adult responsibility, picking my picking my sister up after school from the daycare. Daycare was on the way. So that was my responsibility at the age of 12. My brother ended up, that's a different story. I won't even share that. That's not my story to share. But, so until I was in high school, I was in charge of making sure my sister got home from daycare safe. Now, my mom was a single mom. I get that, totally understand. However, I was a kid, so I was put in I had the responsibility of being a co-parent, but still punished like a child. So to me, when I read that, parents expecting autonomy from their children at a young age, my mom expected me to be an adult when it was convenient for her, and a child when it was convenient for her. Let me continue. A codependent relationship between parent and child, where the child is emotionally unprepared to respond to the adult in a healthy manner. Again, a co-parent. I was a co-parent, but I didn't have a say. Physical or emotional abuse and abandonment. So my mom, right now I have a scar on my arm from a punishment. Emotional abuse, definitely. And then my father was not around. That's a whole nother story. And the last point is a child taught to seek love, fulfillment, and self-esteem from another rather than from their own sense of self-worth, boundaries, and healthy relationships, which is me in a nutshell, growing up. So I hit all the childhood attachment trauma listed out in this. I'm sure there's more. And it makes sense now, so I think about it. Because a narcissist looks to exploit all of those things. A narcissist looks to exploit all of that, especially the part of where a child is taught to seek love, fulfillment, and self-esteem from another. But the part that I love the most, that's really, really spoke to me, is the sentence where the article says, unlike physical addictions, love addiction is not based on the desire for consumption or any chemical substance. The feelings of love trigger the release of serotonin and dopamine, which feed the addictive cravings of pleasure, satisfaction, and euphoria. Well, the feelings of trauma also trigger the same release of serotonin and dopamine. And I'm not laughing. I'm just like, yeah. Yeah. Which explains the trauma bond. It's why it's so hard to pull away. Because your brain is like, no, where are you going? And your conscious is like, dude, I'm getting the hell out of here. It's where I'm going. What you talking about? But your subconscious, which is really in my mind, in my opinions, is tethered to that serotonin dopamine. It's like, oh, no. See, this person right here, this is where we get our supply of serotonin and dopamine, man. They set off all those the food, the stuff that we love. It sets that off, man. What are you doing? And you're like, dude, you just put a bat to my head, bruh. But that subconscious, well, yeah, no, but no, dude, he just put a bat to my head for real. You need to, get a grip with that. And your brain is like, well, maybe he was just having a bad day. And literally, that's going back and forth between what you know is right opposed to what gets fed the serotonin and dopamine in your head. And you feel crazy. You feel like, what the hell is this? Why am I not able to make this decision? It's because that narcissist, which gets a supply of dopamine and serotonin from you, feeds your addiction of the serotonin and dopamine. Trauma bond. But the difference between you and the narcissist has several different people that give them supply. See, the way the narcissists, their brain is wired to have the release of serotonin and dopamine when they're able to dominate and control people. When they're able to lie, gaslight, and manipulate, and they watch the person believe it. That sets off serotonin and dopamine for them. Whereas for us, it's a total different situation. Especially if you suffer from a love addiction. But dig it. The same serotonin and dopamine are released when you are being abused, battered, physically and emotionally, as the feelings of love, which is why perhaps our brains are confused. But our conscious knows the difference. And that's where we need to concentrate the most on. Of course, healing. See, the stronger you are, the more you can identify, like, yep, I suffer from a love addiction and I'm going to need to get a grip on that. That gives you all kind of power and control. Because that's a trigger and you'll be able to see it. That's when you're tapping into that old power of creation. That's a trigger. See, of course, everybody, love is a beautiful thing. Keyword though, beautiful. Not manipulative, not controlling, and no gaslighting. But when you, as a child, endure what I read, your sense of self will be distorted. But remember, the narcissist is the obstacle to overcome, and this is an area of opportunity for you. Thanks for listening. We'll talk soon. Au revoir.